Putting a mouse in a maze can tell you a lot. Researchers have been using puzzles like these for over a century to study how rodents' brains help them get around their environments. But what if you want to study the human brain? Putting humans in a giant maze is pretty impractical, but neuroscientists have been working on replicating rodent studies in humans, and they do it using virtual reality.
There's a whiteboard right there, then there's a door. Oh no, I got a sad face. I failed.
So is virtual reality the future of neuroscientific research?
To find out, I'm going to be navigating my way to some virtual labs, trying out some VR technology and experiencing the world of a virtual lab rat.
The first location on my journey is here at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, where neuroscientists have been trying to understand the strategies people use to find their way around. Tobias Navarro-Schröder has promised to show me one of their virtual mazes.
Tobias, nice to meet you.
Yes, great.
Here we research spatial navigation and memory, and we use this omnidirectional treadmill with a head-mounted display. You want to give it a go?
Yeah, sure.
So what you're going to do is cause an object location memory task. There will be objects on the ground, so try to remember where they are.
Oh.
Okay.
I'll be honest, it's not what I imagined a maze would look like, though I did feel a little like a lab rat. And this is actually the kind of puzzle rats are given in modern tests.
A lot of the recent work is done in circular or square environments, basically just a box. Okay, now you're asked to put back the oil barrel.
I don't remember. Oh no, I got a sad face. I failed. So what did it tell me? Oh, I was
you probably were on the
wrong.
exact opposite side, so it was not random what you did.
Why am I doing this in VR, like a computer game, and not just in the real world?
It's always the same time of day in this world. You can make these objects disappear and appear magically on the spot. So we have a high control over the type of things you're experiencing. And we can have a large number of people go through this exact experience.
And press the top button.
Much better smiling.
I got a medium face.
Medium, that's actually pretty close.
My successes and rather more frequent failures help Tobias see how I'm approaching the task. But if we're going to see what's going on inside my brain, we need a very different piece of kit, an MRI scanner. This time, I can't move at all, and the virtual maze appears on a small screen. It's obviously not as realistic an experience, but now Tobias can see which brain areas are lighting up. Doing this experiment on different people and comparing the results can reveal differences in which brain areas they're using.
So what are then the disadvantages of the fact that it is VR and not a real experience?
One of the big disadvantages is that you only have vision, you only see the world, and in the case of the scanner, your body and head are fixed. So that's very different from everyday life.
Virtual reality gives you complete control over an environment, and that's a big attraction for researchers. But they also want those environments to be as realistic as possible. The closer to reality the virtual world is, the closer the brain's behaviour will be to how it acts in the real world. I found the omnidirectional treadmill pretty immersive, but it's impossible to use at the same time as an MRI scanner. But there is a way around this problem, a way to peer inside brains while they're exploring virtual worlds.
Come on in.
Hi.
Hi, Shamini and Anthea. Nice to meet you. Thank you
Hi.
for coming.
So, okay,
this is the room,
yeah.
virtual reality room.
What are we going to be doing?
So this
here
is
today?
Corey.
Hey.
She has graciously volunteered her time to do the study, and she's very special in that she has a system implanted in her brain that can actually record brain activity. It's actually for epilepsy, for preventing seizures, but we can actually look at the activity, look at the brain data in a part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is very important for memory and spatial navigation.
I'm having to remember where trigger point 1, 2, 3, and 4 were, and then they have me go to like 5 red. It's like Yahtzee or what's that thing where you Twister? Yeah, it's like Twister.
Just like in Tobias's experiment, Corey finds herself in a very simple type of maze.
There's like a supply closet right there. Then there's a door, and the cylinder that I'm supposed to go into is right here.
So this is the first time we can record deep brain signals while somebody's actually moving around. We've never been able to do that in a human being before. So she can learn things, she can interact with people, she can do all sorts of things. So this is the beginning of many, many studies to come to look at what's happening in the brain at exact moments of naturalistic behaviors and real life activities.
There aren't many participants like Corey available for studies, and it's possible that the brains of people with epilepsy might have differences from an average brain. But there is still an advantage to being able to measure brain signals during the immersive simulation.
We are seeing that there are properties of these brain waves that do react differently depending on what the person is doing.
So it's really important then that the participants are actually doing something. They are actually like walking at a particular speed or whatever, so that you can see what's happening during that.
Yeah, it's important that they're doing something and that we can actually monitor what they're doing very precisely. And that's why we have all this room and this setup and complicated equipment.
So the VR, you can control it carefully. So, for a scientist, all your variables are controlled, which is great.
Yes.
But is there not a disadvantage in that it's still sort of clearly artificial world? Is that a problem?
I mean, definitely we want to be really a replica of the real world, and I think the VR field, as the technology itself, is still evolving. But yes, it's not quite the real world, right? It's still a virtual rendition of the real world.
But is virtual reality realistic enough for our brains to act like they do in the real world? To find the answer, researchers need to compare real and virtual worlds. But there hasn't been much research on this yet. At least, not in humans. Another lab, round the corner from Nanthia's, has been asking this question, though they use more conventional lab rats.
So come on in here.
Great.
So this is the setup, and we are going to go in there and look at what's going on. So that's Sina, that's her rat.
Hi.
So we are going to put the rat in this virtual reality where he has to figure out where he is using only vision.
So it looks like this rat is on a giant beach
He's
ball.
on a giant floating ball that every step he takes, the world changes accordingly. So it's like a bigger than IMAX. He's totally surrounded by that in every direction all the way up to his feet. So he sees his own shadow. And you are going to do that, and you'll see how compelling it looks to yourself.
Oh, right. Okay, great. I'll give it a try.
So we're going to pretend that your hand is the rat, right?
So I'm walking and I can see it. Look, okay, I'm getting closer
Like
to this
everything
wall.
is coming. Yeah, things are coming towards you. And you've still not got any reward.
And when you've got a rat and you're doing the experiment, you're
Yeah.
actually recording their
Brain signals.
brain signals
That's exactly right.
live.
You'll have to hurry up, because if you don't find it quickly enough, it will be timeout.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
Because rat finds its reward in about 3 seconds. You did it.
I don't really know where I am, though.
Virtual reality allows the brain to make a map using only vision.
Yeah.
Now we are going to see how the brain makes map in the real world, where all the senses are telling you where you are, not just vision.
Wait a second.
So we are
This
going
looks
to again-
familiar.
So this is the real world version of the virtual maze.
So the floor pattern is the same.
Exactly.
The walls are the same.
walls have the same patterns, and the rat has to now run around in this maze, and we can measure the activity of the same neurons
As
in the real and
Yeah.
virtual world. So we can compare now whether the neurons, the map of the space that neurons made in the real world looks exactly the same as virtual reality or not.
During these experiments, electrodes in the rats' brains measure the activity in a brain area called the hippocampus. Previous work has suggested that the neurons in the hippocampus create a kind of mental map that represents the spaces the rats are exploring.
So in the experiment that we've just seen, you've gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that the virtual world and the real world are identical. So there's no external sound, there's no air moving, and it looks exactly the same. So you would expect then that the brain recordings that you get from the rats in those two places should be the same, right?
That's exactly what we expected. But what we found could not be more different. First thing we noticed is that 60% of the hippocampus shut down in virtual reality. And when we saw this, the first time that happened, we thought, wait a minute, maybe something went wrong with his brain. Maybe the electrodes got damaged. So we put him back in the real world. Nope, the neurons are still there. Then he said, all right, what about the remaining 40% of neurons? Are their maps as good as the real world or better? once again, major surprise, that the maps of these neurons were completely corrupted.
So even though the mouse looked like it was doing exactly the same thing and it knows where it's going, somehow the brain just wasn't reacting in the same way. Why would that be?
We think that what happens in virtual reality is that different senses are not saying the same thing to the rat. When the rat takes one step in virtual world, his feet are telling him, yep, I'm putting in a lot of effort, I'm moving, but his guts are telling, no, you're not going anywhere. His head is telling him, nope, I don't feel any wind coming in.
And does this apply to human VR studies as well, when you have people walking around with electrodes in their head or even just on a treadmill?
There is merit to simplify the real world and say, I'm going to forget about these 4 things in the real world and I'm going to focus only on vision. If, on the other hand, our goal is to say, I want to understand how the hippocampus works in natural conditions, then the only thing to do is the natural condition. So in my opinion, we need to do not just the real world, not just virtual reality, but both in the same subjects.
As virtual reality research continues to grow, the question of accuracy is only going to get more important. It's not yet clear whether humans show the same unusual brain patterns in VR as Mayank's rats do, or how significant that might be for different research questions. And we don't know how immersive a computer simulation has to be before our brains will react naturally. But the researchers I spoke to on my journey all agreed that, despite ongoing questions, VR technology isn't going anywhere.
Oh!
Look at that.
I got a happy smiley.
That's actually really difficult to get a...
That's amazing.